Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here with Billy Derrick from Memorial Gymnasium after Vanderbilt's 78-75 loss to Alabama. Commodores fall to 0-1 in SEC play in front of a loquacious crowd, Billy. Before we talk more about that, I want to start out our presenting sponsor for basketball season, The Wash House. Are you dreading laundry day? Is it stealing time to do the things you truly enjoy? Let the laundry professionals at The Wash House take care of that for you with 2 convenient locations in the greater Nashville area. Just drop off your laundry, and our professional attendants can give you back the one thing you can never have enough of, which is your time. Within 24 hours, you can pick up your nicely folded, fresh and clean laundry, ready to be put away. Check out www.washhouseclean.com. Stop in today and get your time back. Billy, I thought Vanderbilt's defense was better today, and I thought Vanderbilt as a whole was a little bit better, but obviously didn't result in the win. Vanderbilt moves to 5-9, and again, kind of just the summation of like this team's getting a little bit better, but right now just not quite good enough.
Yeah, and it's gonna get to a point in this season where we talk about these games as must-win games. Obviously, you know, you could look at this game and say, yeah, it's a must-win game. You're 5-8, right? You need to get back on track. But at the same time, Vanderbilt looked better against Memphis. They got a win against Dartmouth, and they looked a lot better here today. I mean, you know, they're down, 31-15 at one point there in the first half, and they sort of claw back. In the last 14 minutes of that first half, Joey, Alabama only had 7 points, which is incredible. I mean, Vanderbilt's defense really tightened up. Stackhouse talked about how they started to slow them down. You know, I was kind of getting him to credit the 2-3 zone, but he said really that, you know, it was a lot of transition.
Yeah.
You know, they really figured out what Alabama was doing in transition, and Alabama, #1 offense statistically in the country. Memphis was a great offense as well. So last few games, Vandy's played some really high-flying offenses and has held their own. So I think that's a good sign heading into SEC play, and it's here now, right? That they're in SEC play. But yeah, it was really the defense in that first half, Joey, and I think Alabama was kind of frustrated for a lot of today. You know, they had a lot of fans here, and you know, if you're the Crimson Tide, you're probably not coming out of this one thrilled.
Yeah.
You know, you just kind of survived. If you're Vanderbilt, you're sitting there saying, okay, if we can get Mannion back and tighten up defensively, communicate better. Stack talked about that as well. He said he called this team a quiet team. He said they don't really have a loquacious defender, which I don't know what that means. I mean,
we're not smart enough to understand that, Billy.
But yeah, Joey, I thought overall we can't continue talking this way after games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this can't last much longer.
Yeah.
Because these need to start turning into wins. And I think, you know, I think they will. And I think they found something today with Jason Rivera-Torres. I mean, he had 20 points. We've seen that, right, the last few weeks. Tyler Lawrence was I thought, a big difference today, too, 20 points. Mannion. But Mannion, when he went down, Joey, Mark Sears had 15 points in the last 8 minutes of the game. That's all with Mannion out. So that shows you how important he is to this team. And I just thought that was a huge part of this game. There's a lot of themes and storylines to get to. Lawrence getting back on track. Magnon's injury, I think he's fine. And then Rivera-Torres, man, they've got a shot maker, and they ran a lot of sets for him today. And Vanderbilt did a good job around him of moving the basketball. They need some other guys to step up, though. At the end of the day, Joey, they're 5-9, and we can't keep talking like this because at some point they got to start winning these.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, it's frustrating because you look at this team, and early on, I was counting when Vanderbilt was on this end, and it would go down the floor, and one guy would touch the ball, or 2 guys would touch the ball, and they'd miss a shot. It'd either be Tyler Lawrence stopping the ball when they're trying to move it, or Ezra Mannion kind of trying to take control of the possession early, which works. They're 2 best players, but it felt like Vanderbilt really moved the ball a lot better in the second half, and you saw what it can be capable of offensively. You also saw what Tyler Lawrence as an individual could be capable of. He started out, I think he was 2 for 11 at one point, finished 7 for 19. The efficiency wasn't there at the beginning. It came back at the end. Vanderbilt's defense was really awful to start this game.
Yeah.
23 points for Alabama in the first couple minutes, and they were shooting 80% from the field, 60-something% from 3. That can't happen. You can't win games like that, but you see the bright spots mixed in here. It's just frustrating as a whole to see. I guess it's not just the freshmen who are inconsistent, it's the entire roster. And Stackhouse likes to talk about Jason Rivera-Torres and all of them being inconsistent, but man, it's just, we're not seeing consistent play out of this entire roster, no matter the setting, no matter the circumstance. Some days they play better than others, but right now we're not seeing flashes of a full capable second day or third day SEC tournament team.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the Bill Parcells quote or have seen it, right? He's not a rookie anymore, right? Late in an NFL season, Parcells would always say that. For Vanderbilt right now, you're almost getting to the point with a lot of these younger guys where they're not freshmen anymore. Rivera Torres, right? Stepping up when he needs to. And I thought it was interesting. Stack said we just need to stay in the film room with him and continue to work him through these things. I think Rivera Torres, all of a sudden, Joey, is a go-to guy. And I'm not saying the go-to guy, but in that second half, for a period of, 3-4 minutes, he was hitting some ridiculous shots. And there probably aren't a lot of people around the SEC that have still taken notice. Stack did admit that he's on these scouting reports for these teams now, right? He's probably up to a 10, maybe 12-point average now. He was averaging 7 points a game heading into tonight's game, and he had 20. So Rivera Torres, I think, is the positive story. The negative story is Mannion. But you got Lawrence back.
You see that right there?
What?
Ezra Mannion just walked by in a boot, which could be precautionary. Tyler Lawrence's was pretty precautionary. But
interesting. You looked behind.
It was on the camera, so I couldn't really avoid it. But I wouldn't say that's the end all be all to say he's out for weeks, but just to note that is what we just saw back there. We're not trying to break something that we have no business breaking, but it was literally right there.
And when he walked into the locker room, he looked okay. Even when he was walking off the floor after he hit the 2 free throws, he looked fine. I don't know, maybe it's a situation where you sit him against LSU and get him back for the Auburn game next Saturday, but we'll see. Either way, they need him. I think they need to win that LSU game, just morale-wise. Get to a 6-9 record as opposed to 5-10. There's a lot of these visuals that just look better. So they'll go up in Ken Palm and the net.
Yeah, they went up in the net a lot. Or not the net, Ken Palm. They went up to 176 or something like that.
So I think some things will change after today. Now, fan-wise, again, I don't think that will change much. We had Tyron Lawrence's comment about, him wishing there were more Vandy fans here, and I get that. He's probably in a tough position to answer that question, but at the same time, they're 5-9, so they're in a similar spot that they were in last year. If they could string some wins together, the fans will come back. It doesn't take much.
Yeah, I look at something else today. And I think I kind of noticed this during the game when they only had 2 first-half turnovers. They've taken care of the ball a lot better than they have in the past. And I think that's something that really hampered them early, was that they didn't take care of the ball and it gave them a smaller margin for error. Really, 5 of the last 6 games, they've had less than double-digit turnovers. They scored 15 points off of Alabama's turnovers today. Won the turnover battle 16-9. Taking a step in the right direction there, and that's maybe the biggest sign of optimism I have there, along with Jason Rivera Torres, who we talked about a little bit. He was the lead in my story today just because the flair he showed, the way he was able to get to his spots and rise up. And when that first one went in, it felt like he just kind of kept building on it and fed off of himself. So if there's an empty gym one night, Jason Rivera Torres can maybe be a guy who doesn't have to have the crowd to have a big performance. But when there's been big crowds this year, when they played good teams, Jason Rivera Torres has stepped up. You look at the Memphis game, you look at today, I think he could be a foundational player for them and a guy who, if they can hold on to him for a couple years, he could be a tremendous player, maybe an all-SEC level player if he continues to develop the way he has. Just a 6'6" guard with that off the dribble ability, that confidence, that swagger. They don't come around very often.
No, they don't. And in front of the bright lights, he plays well. You saw that in Memphis. You saw it tonight. In a good crowd. I thought it was better than I expected. A lot of Alabama fans, of course. I thought Vanderbilt fans were loud at points, but I think that's encouraging for Vanderbilt in road games this year, especially in close road games. Vanderbilt, let's face it, in the Stackhouse era, they don't get blown out a ton, really, particularly. I mean, they kind of hang in. I know, you got the Alabama game last year. And
the scheduled loss.
Yeah, the scheduled loss, but
this wasn't a scheduled loss. They played okay today.
Exactly, and so there are some encouraging signs, and I think you look at Rivera Torres, that performance, if you get Tyron Lawrence going, if you get Mannion back, which I think you will. The other thing is, though, they've got to have other guys step up. He talked about Evan Taylor, got to get him going. And they ran some sets for Evan and the baseline. He's a matchup guy.
Just 1 for 7 isn't going to do it, like you're kind of hinting at.
Exactly. He's got to get going. And if he can go 3 for 7, just a little bit better than what he was today. Comateros hit a few big threes today, but not enough. How many attempts did he have?
He was 2 for 7 from 3. Two for 7 from the field as well, sitting 2 for inside the
so shot a lot, but you need it's like you just need a little bit more from those guys, and I think if they get it, this team has something. I really do believe that. I'm not, throwing darts on on the wall, whatever that quote is. But at the end of the day, Joey, they are 5-9, and they got to really get going, right?
Yeah.
You gotta string some wins here to put some faith back in.
Yeah, I think they have something, but I also think that something is a lot different than the something we had anticipated a few months ago. The at-large bid case shot. They got to win 15 games to get an at-large. Not going to happen. Probably not going to win the ACC tournament. Probably not going to go to the NIT at this point. So there's a lot of ground to cover for them. But if they can find a way to make this a compelling last couple months, maybe that changes some things that happen this offseason. Maybe they're in a better spot moving forward, or maybe they're not. I don't know, but you'd like to see them at least be competitive down the stretch here. And I think we may be heading towards that. We've seen them look in games to where they'd be completely uncompetitive in the SEC. Texas Tech, Western Carolina, Arizona State. Those are all three teams that are way worse than Alabama and Memphis. And they've started to string together some better games, but still inconsistent play. They didn't rebound it very well today. Shot 7 for 25 from 3. That's not going to cut it against an SEC team. And I don't know that they really have the shooting as a whole and kind of the get your feet in the paint, kick out ability that I was maybe thinking they had. I think Taylor is probably going to kind of ascend to the mean at some point as a shooter. He shot, 40% last year from 3?
Yeah.
Comateros, I feel like the guy never misses.
Yeah.
But it feels like Vanderbilt has some shooters. I don't know if they have enough to where you're consistently relying on them hitting shots to stay in games like this. Is going to have to be on the back of better defense, which I think we saw today when Alabama was able to get in transition. It was a complete barn burner, but when Vanderbilt was able to slow them down a little bit, it was better, and I think they guarded the dribble drive a little bit better. They kind of kept Alabama out of the paint in stretches, so things were better today, just ultimately not good enough to win. And I gave this speech at Thompson Bowling Arena last year when they lost to Tennessee. At some point, you got to start winning, and positive signs and moral victories aren't enough, and I think it's kind of the point we're at, but obviously like to see them play like this rather than get ran off the floor like a lot of people thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they're at. You've got to start winning games. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They need to win at LSU, and then you welcome Auburn in on Saturday. We saw how fun last year's Auburn game was in here. There's going to be a lot of Auburn fans. I think if you can get this win against LSU, maybe pick off that Auburn game like you did last year, they'll be motivated coming in. I know it's not time to preview that one yet, but there are some stretches here where Vanderbilt, I think they can potentially go on a similar run they did last year. Obviously, we're not talking about the NCAA tournament. We're just talking about get back to respectability in the SEC, in the conference right now. We'll see. But, yeah, it was encouraging, Joe, but they need to start winning games.
Yeah, right now they're not really checking the boxes that I would want to be checked at this point in the season. The recruiting hasn't been great. They're not really showing it on the floor. The crowd was better today, but it hasn't been great. Really the only thing they can hang their hat on is that they've had injuries at this point, and they're getting better right now, but still the results really aren't there. And again, that's kind of where we're at. There's inconsistent flashes of really good play, but got to see it more consistently. We got to see it result in some wins. Vanderbilt goes up in KenPom today. I'm sure it'll go up in the net by a good amount, but still falls to Alabama, falls to 5-9. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Billy Derrick. We'll be at the women's game tomorrow covering Shea Ralph's 14-1 team with Elena Morris. If they win, I'm sure we'll do a rapid reaction. If not, maybe we'll do a state of the program type thing, or maybe we'll be lazy and go home, Billy. I think we might deserve it after covering so many losses. We might be able to take a rain check. But thank you guys for watching, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow afternoon. Peace.